All right, Giant fans, as promised, we are kicking off our in-depth look at the New York Giants class of 2023. We're going to start off with a general overview from the one and only Damian Parson of Locked On NFL Draft. That's coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, Giant fans, I am now joined by Damian Parson. He's one half of the dynamic duo over at Locked On NFL Draft. He's also a talent evaluator, does a great job. He's been on the program with me before. Excited to have you back, Damian. Damian, I want to get your overall take, if we could, on the New York Giants draft haul.
Man, I think they did a really, really good job, especially with those first two picks, going ahead and getting Wink Martindale, his type of corner with Deonte Banks, a physical, super athletic young man who still has a lot of room to grow. I don't believe he's reached even close to his ceiling yet. I think he could be a legitimate CB1, especially in that press man heavy type of scheme that Wink runs. So when that pick came off the board, I was extremely excited for Banks going to this type of system. And now I believe that Wink has his probably more athletic and more physical, or maybe around the same type of physicality level of Marlon Humphrey for this New York Giants defense. And then getting he was between center one and center two. I really love Joe Tippmann, who ended up going before him, but getting Michael Schmitz, someone I met down in Mobile. And I felt like, getting a quarterback of the offense, extremely intelligent. He's strong. He's athletic. He's just going to make Daniel Jones' life easier, Saquon Barkley's life easier, and it just helped that interior offensive line, pick up stunts and handle twists and see free runners and potential blitzers. So those two picks I loved a lot. And I think their first four picks, I think, are guys that the first four picks I view as not all of them are immediate day one starters or day one impact players, but I think they're going to be impactful rookies. Jalen Hyatt, I said this, like with Jalen Hyatt, I felt like this was because I think his teammate was still on the board, Cedric Tillman, and I wanted to see them get another big body receiver to pair with Darren Waller's other big body guy in the room and all those other kind of shifty on grass type of separators. But Jalen Hyatt is going to bring the deep ball to this offense. And if your teams want to gear up and stop Daniel Jones' legs, which we saw on display a lot last year, and then try and stop Saquon Barkley. If you do give this offense a single high coverage and give Jalen Hyatt just a chance to get a step on one of your defenders, 4-4, in the 40, this kid can fly. And if you do that, Daniel Jones can, he does his job in terms of pre-snap identification, sees it and finds that mismatch, and you have a big play threat to go along with a Wan'Dale Robinson. Dan Waller. I know they brought back Slayton. I think Shepard's back as well. This wide receiver room has a lot of athleticism and talent to it. Like I said, I want to see a little bit more size, but other than that, you still got Hodgins from last year who broke out last year as well. If I'm Daniel Jones, I feel really good about this wide receiver room now. So overall, to me, the draft, and getting some depth pieces and special teams guys. I like the Eric Gray pick in the 5th round. I love that because it gives another running back in the room that can run the ball, but also he's very good in the passing game as well. He was arguably one of the better guys in terms of route running and stuff like that at the Senior Bowl at the running back position. So take Saquon off the field, give him a little bit of a breather, also keep his body upright, because you want to be able to not just win one playoff game this coming season. You want to compound on that and get better. So having a healthy Saquon Barkley is going to do that. So I like the class overall.
Yeah, I like the class as well. Damian, want to ask you about a guy I couldn't find a whole lot on. I'm sure you have information on him. So I want to ask you about the 6th round pick, cornerback Tre Hawkins III out of Old Dominion. What can you tell us about him?
Oh, with Tre, he has, especially the height and the body type that you look for. Definitely someone I expected to kind of go because he's coming on the Old Dominion. And they actually have they've had some ballers come through there. Like that a lot of people don't know that they just transfer to bigger schools. And that's when, you really get a chance to see their talents and display. But I think just similar to Deonte Banks, right? Similar to Banks, you get a guy that has the physicality, the actual skill set to play and develop as a press man type of corner, a guy that can cap routes. I think he has the ability to stay in phase deep down the field. I can't remember. I don't know. It's like his 40 time off the top of my head, but I do remember that he had good speed down the field. And anytime you're playing press man and you want to be physical, you need guys that, hey, when you turn and run, that you can stay in phase or recover if you are beaten quickly at the line of scrimmage. And I feel like just like Deonte Banks, that this young man can do that as well. I like his hands. So I think I really like what Wink is going to have to work with, because with Hawkins, like I said, I think he'll be probably a special team guy early on, but I think that there's some developmental upside with him. And I think Wink can get it out of him.
And also they drafted another defensive back, Javarius Owens out of Houston. What can you tell us about him?
Owens, let me see if I found my notes on Owens. Owens was from out of Houston. I believe he was kind of I would say 6 foot's not short, but like a lot of times people see safeties, you think about bigger guys, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", but I know he was athletic. Remember, yeah, he was an athletic guy, a guy that I actually thought would have came off the board earlier. I'm not really sure why he dropped, to be honest. Like I thought I still had him day 3. But I thought he was more like 5th round, maybe late 4th. But somebody that great in the locker room, great with the team, in terms of being the captain, a guy that could work in the deep areas on the field. I like to call it playing on the roof. As a defensive back, when you play some single high, he has that type of speed and athleticism to do that. But also this young man that has that versatility, and it's crazy because you see a lot of this nowadays with these hybrid safeties that they played corner at some point in their life and they play safety. So that background is going to help them, because then you think about having a guy that can walk down into the nickel, be a +1 versus the run, but also man-to-man slot receivers and kind of those, especially with these tight ends nowadays being big body receivers themselves, that they detach them from the line of scrimmage and put them in the slot. Him in the nickel allow you to kind of have that versatility. And a lot nowadays, defenses are kind of leaning towards more of the 3 safety looks where, hey, we're not just having 2 safeties deep, but we have another safety that's a nickel defender that can play press man, drop off in zone, and help in the run. And it also, so in that way, you could take a off-ball linebacker off the field and have more athleticism. So I think he brings that to this defense. And like I said, just with him, Hawkins and Deonte Banks, I'm excited to see what Wink Martindale can do with these young DBs.
Hey, Giant fans, if you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste, then you got to try a Built Bar or a Built Puff. These tasty treats are healthy and amazing, with each bar or puff covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like eating a candy bar, but without all the fat, carbs, and sugar. And with Built Bars and Built Puffs, you're getting a generous dose of protein in every serving, as much as 17 grams of protein on average, with most bars boasting about 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar. And did you know that you don't have to wait any longer for your box to ship from Built.com? Just pop into your local Sam's Club or Walmart and pick up a box of assorted flavors. If you prefer, you can place your order over on Built.com and save 15% off your first order by using our special promo code LOCKEDON15. Were you surprised that Jalen Hyatt fell to the 3rd round?
Not well, from when I watched him and how I actually graded him as a 3rd round pick. So I wasn't shocked for myself. I was shocked because of the buzz that a lot of people had around him. People, the world-class speed and everything else that was talked about heading into the combine. So I actually was starting to buy in that he might have been a 1st-round pick. I wouldn't have agreed with it just because that offense made his life a lot easier than some of the receivers, his counterparts in this draft. A lot of free runs and runways, not getting touched at the line of scrimmage. And it's basically, like I always use the car analogy, he was a Ferrari that you just put on the drag strip. and you just let him go. But it's like, the concerns was, okay, well, how do you, even though you're Ferrari and you're fast, how do you handle 5 o'clock traffic when someone's restricting you from getting in front of the pack? And that's what my concerns were. He didn't run a very wide variety route tree. Josh Heupel just schemed a lot of things up for him. So I was shocked, more so just off the hype, but then, off of my own loins, I was like, well, this is kind of the range I had him graded anyway, but I definitely thought he would have went a little higher just because it seemed the NFL was really, really buying in on him.
And similarly, were you surprised that John Michael Schmitz wasn't the first center off the board?
I was surprised he fell to the second, to be honest. I thought he was like universally viewed as the top center in the class. Like I said, Joe Tippmann was the guy that I had battling with him, and it was very, very close between the two. But yeah, I was shocked that he came off the board in the second. And I was shocked that he was center too. And I feel like you guys, like I was at KC in one of our over with the Draft Network, and one of my colleagues is a diehard Giants fan, and I was like, dude, like your next pick's coming up. I was like, this better be John Michael Schmitz. So I was like, he cannot keep falling. Like he's too good of a football player, too valuable to do so. And then when the pick came in, like he was extremely excited, and I'm like, this is good. So like, I was shocked that he slipped, but you guys got immense value for him.
I was going to say, and then that was the guy I was beating the drum for weeks, if not months. Where do you think, Damian, the Giants got the best value overall in this draft?
I would say, it might be John Michael Schmitz, honestly. I think it's John Michael Schmitz. A guy that a lot of people had labeled, even myself included, it's like a first round type of pick. I kept mocking them to the Seattle Seahawks because they lost their center in free agency, and due to retirement. So I'm like, man, you got 2 first round picks. Go ahead and load up on the trenches and get yourself a day one starter, a starting center that's going to make whoever's under quarterback life a lot easier and help the run game as well. And to see him fall down to you guys, in the second round, I think that was immense value. I think that was the best value pick of the class because I just did not expect him to be there.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at some of the undrafted free agents that the Giants picked up, but if you have, who are some of the names that you think really we need to pay attention to?
So I haven't seen any of the guys that you guys have grabbed via undrafted free agents, but I can look though.
Okay, I can pull it up too. So you haven't seen the list, is what you're saying, or
yeah, I
okay. I'll give you some of the names.
Okay.
Let's see. They've got Jamon Green, Michigan; Deontay Johnson, Toledo; Troy Brown, Ole Miss; Tommy DeVito, Illinois; Bryce Ford-Wheaton, who's intriguing to me, West Virginia; Habaku Baldonado, Pittsburgh. Yeah, and then they picked up a long snapper, Cameron Lyons from Charlotte.
I love the Bryce Ford-Wheaton signing.
Mm-hmm.
Because just talking about kind of adding some more size to the receiver room, he has all of that, and he tested incredibly. I think he was a sub 4.4 guy at like 6'3", 200 plus pounds. I think he jumped well in the vert, if I remember correctly. Like, this is a young man who I feel like I thought he would have got drafted like late day 3 at least. Teams typically take a flyer on receivers that look like him. He looks the part, athletic and everything, good ball skills. But, you just got to work on some of the route running and adding to his release package and stuff like that. But all those things are things you can learn in the offseason and in practice and from veterans and really become more nuanced. But I love that signing the most, to be honest with you, mainly because if you can get him onto the field, he brings deep speeds, just like Jalen Hyatt, can get downfield in a hurry, eat up grass with his long stride. But that physical frame, the ability to play outside, think you play him in the slot as well, move him around if you'd like. I really like that pick a lot, that signing, because like I said, I feel like there's more to him. He's like a 4.38 kid, and I just feel like there's more to him than a lot of people know. And then Jamon Green out of Michigan is another one. I just love the fact that Wink is getting more and more DBs, young DBs, to come in and battle. This is a battle-tested kid. to play in the Big Ten and of course, for the past couple of years, to go against the likes of Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba at Ohio State. Then this year, Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison he had to see and face. And he's definitely more of he fits that mold. He's not the best athlete or transition guy in terms of like having the best footwork and stuff like that. So he's one of those corners that's playing press man where like he has to be, we call it dictating the action, where he has to be physical and be aggressive with guys, get up on them, reroute them. Like, but it has to be, as I also categorize or call it, controlled aggression. Can be controlled with it. Don't, just be, you could be aggressive, but you can also be sloppy. So don't be sloppy with your technique and trying to just jump the gun and, get, two hands on guys, but be deliberate with your punches, be strong, be aggressive with them, and really reroute guys and dictate the action. Keep guys within your arm's length, get to, close them and squeeze them to the sideline. He's more of an outside corner for sure. I don't think you're going to see any nickel or slot snaps from him, but he's somebody that to keep an eye on in camp for sure. Good size and length as well.
Going back to Ford-Wheaton for a moment, I looked up some information on him. He had, I think, some concentration drops, probably the most he had last year. Also, it looked like he caught 60% or more of his passes in only one of his years of college. I mean, is that a concern? Is that something that can be fixed, do you think?
Yeah, catching is always something you can correct. I always, anytime like catching becomes a topic for discussion, don't get me wrong, he had like 6 drops this year, and most of them came like the first half of the season. Like he only had 2 the last like 8 games or something like that. But like his contested catch, percentage is well over 50%. So like you see, like then that takes concentration. So it's typically those situations where it's like, all right, you watch the tape and you say, okay, what kind of drops are you having? I always say all drops are not created equal. The quarterback play at West Virginia was very, very subpar for like his entire career there. But so it's like you see instances where, slant routes where, you typically in the mind of a receiver, you're trying to catch it and turn and run immediately because you're in the middle of the field. You don't want to get blasted by a blindside linebacker, things like that. And then typically you see guys turn their head. We always call it looking the ball in. And sometimes guys get a little antsy, like, nope, I feel footsteps or I sense bodies closing in on me. And they start to look around before they reel a pass in and things of that nature, just kind of turning the run before securing the ball. But, Le'Veon Bell came out of the running back who used to play for the Steelers. He came out of college as like a pure runner. He hit the jugs machine every day. Once he got to Steelers camp and became one of the better dual threat running backs in the league. So a guy that didn't really catch the ball became one of the best pass catching guys. So I always say drops are definitely correctable. You just get on the jugs machine, work on it, watching the film, see what's going on. But I think his one more so, just like you said, those concentration drops, just trying to turn the run and get prepared to try and get as much yards after the catch, which you love, but you just coach him and say, hey, young fella, just bring the ball in first. You can't go nowhere without it.
Right, exactly. I also want to go back to Baldonado for a moment because the Giants really didn't address edge rusher in this draft. They did bring back O'Shane Ximenez, but what do you think this guy's Baldonado's chances are? Again, having researched him, looks like he's pretty stout against the run. He's got some pass rush moves, he's got some good production. Do you think, there's enough there to make it at the next level, or is he more of a practice squatter at this point?
I think he'll be a good rotational piece for a defensive line, especially for this odd front 3-4, where he'll be an outside linebacker, backing up Kayvon and Aziz. Like I said, he's got good length and he plays with pretty decent power too for a guy that's not like 270 or anything like that. He plays with decent power. He's not the most fluid athlete in terms of like hip fluidity and rotational turn to like beat the hands and immediately flip his hips and close on the quarterback or whatnot. Sometimes he can get work too far upfield. But I do think he's a good rotational piece. Plays with a good motor too. Well coached kid. So I think he'll fit in well.
And then finally, Damian, when you look at this Giants draft class, who's the one X factor, do you think, in this class? And not necessarily a Banks or, a Schmitz, who obviously are going to be impactful players. But I'm talking from rounds. I wouldn't even say Hyatt, but let's say day 3, the X factor.
I think it's Eric Gray, the running back out of Oklahoma, a young man that's battle tested, played in the SEC, and he got on my radar about 2 years ago. He was at Tennessee, and that was before Tennessee became the powerhouse they were this past season, where they were ranked number 1 in the entire country for most of the season. The young man that can run between the tackle, very patient, good lateral agility, good footwork. He's got it's crazy because we all know Saquon has the big thighs. They call him Saquon has the big thighs because they call him Saquon. This kid's got some nice strong legs as well, and you see that he runs with a good low center of gravity. Able to lower the shoulder and fight for extra yardage. But I think his value is going to really help in the passing game. Really, there's a dump off option, check down option. Like I said, he was one of the guys that really impressed me when they would run those running back routes at the Senior Bowl, and you just see him cut and break at the top of his route and separate from guys. And then the next, because you can do that, but it's like, okay, can you track it? And he tracked the ball pretty well and caught the ball well as also. So I think he could be a potential X factor because, like I said, giving Saquon those breathers and help him, keep him going and keep him for the long haul throughout the season. And you just think about having a guy that can step in and give you similar production. Like, he's not as dynamic athletically as Saquon. And Saquon's, of course, is a bigger body and frame, but I think he can come in and give you dual threat ability, rushing the ball as well as receiving. And he held up pretty well. If I remember correctly, down in Mobile and Pass Pro, and Daniel Jones will definitely appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they're going to gravitate more towards a committee approach. Saquon will be the lead back, of course, but if you want to have him around for several years, you probably want to take some of the pounding off of his body if you can, especially given that injury history. So
correct.
Damian, appreciate you coming on. He is Damian Parsons, one half of the dynamic duo over at Locked On NFL Draft. I guess you guys still have shows going on, right? Even though
absolutely.
The draft is over, you still do. Okay, good. So folks, check them out. They're breaking stuff down, probably getting ready for the next draft because, there's not that much time in between.
Without question.
All right. Well, Damian, thank you for coming on. Giant fans, thank you for tuning in. We will talk to you again tomorrow.